Okay, so picture this. It's 1914, and the world is, like, on the brink.
Yeah.
And a single event, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, sets off this huge chain reaction that throws continents into war. We're diving into World War I, the tangled alliances, the simmering tensions. Like, how did a regional conflict turn into this global catastrophe?
It really is a fascinating story.
And it's not just about rehashing history. We're going deep
Right.
into the specific decisions and events that led to the conflict so you can really understand how it all unfolded.
Yeah, what's so interesting is that the very agreements designed to keep peace, ironically, paved the path to war.
Oh, wow.
It's a stark reminder that even well-intentioned systems can have unintended and, really devastating consequences.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've got some incredible material from history.
Yeah.
And they paint a picture of Europe on edge, like a powder keg, just waiting for a spark.
And that spark tragically came on June 28th, 1914, with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo. It wasn't just a random act of violence. The Archduke was assassinated by a member of Young Bosnia, a revolutionary group fighting to free their nation from Austria-Hungary's rule.
Yeah. This is where the powder keg ignites. The assassination was not just a personal tragedy.
Yeah.
It had these massive geopolitical implications.
Right.
You see, Young Bosnia had connections to Serbian nationalists who helped them acquire weapons for a potential revolution. When Austria-Hungary discovered this, they saw it as a direct threat from Serbia.
It's a prime example of how a localized struggle for power and independence could escalate into a global war. Austria-Hungary, driven by anger, thirst for revenge, declared war on Serbia just a month after the assassination.
So this assassination was a catalyst, but the question is, why did this localized conflict just explode into a world war?
Yeah, exactly.
Our source points to a complex network of alliances that European nations had woven in the decades leading up to the war. It's almost as if they were setting the stage for a continental showdown.
What's interesting is that these alliances were initially intended to prevent war.
Oh, yeah.
The idea was to create a balance of power, a deterrent where no single nation would dare disrupt the status quo for fear of facing a coalition of enemies.
Right, like a huge game of tug of war.
Right, exactly.
Where everyone's pulling so hard that no one moves.
Yeah.
But as we're about to see, this system backfired.
Yeah.
Spectacularly.
Yeah, it did. Instead of preventing war, these alliances acted as a chain reaction. Once one nation declared war, it obligated its allies to join the fight, dragging more and more countries into the conflict.
Wow.
It's like a series of tripwires,
Yeah.
each one setting off the one before it.
So let's break down these alliances.
Okay.
We had two main factions, the Central Powers and the Allies. Can you walk us through who was on each side?
Sure. The Central Powers consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
On the other side, the Allies included France, Great Britain, Russia, Italy, Japan, and later the United States.
Wait, Italy switched sides?
They did.
That adds like a whole other layer of complexity.
Right.
Wow.
Italy's decision to switch sides in 1915 is a really fascinating example of how the dynamics of war could shift alliances and allegiances.
Yeah.
But to understand why, we need to go back to the roots of these alliances.
Right.
Many of them stemmed from pre-war agreements and rivalries that had been simmering for decades.
Right, like unresolved baggage from previous conflicts.
Exactly.
Our source specifically mentions the Franco-Prussian War of 1870.
Right.
How did that event contribute to the tensions leading up to World War I?
The Franco-Prussian War was a pivotal moment in European history. It led to the unification of Germany under Prussian leadership and inflicted a humiliating defeat on France. This defeat fueled resentment in France and a burning desire for revenge, setting the stage for future conflict.
So Germany emerged from this war as a major power,
They did.
allied with Austria-Hungary. This must have set off alarm bells for other European powers. It's like watching this new heavyweight contender step into the ring.
Precisely. France, feeling threatened by a newly unified and powerful Germany, sought alliances to counterbalance this growing power. In the 1890s, they formed an alliance with Russia, whose vast empire posed a potential threat to Germany's eastern border.
So we're starting to see the formation of these two opposing blocs.
Yes.
Germany and Austria-Hungary on one side, and France and Russia on the other.
Exactly.
It's a classic power struggle, with each side trying to, outmaneuver the other.
Exactly. And to make things even more complicated, Great Britain, traditionally wary of any single power dominating the continent, gradually developed closer ties with both France and Russia.
Right.
This eventually led to the formation of the Triple Entente, a loose agreement between the three nations.
Interesting. So the Triple Entente, it wasn't a formal military alliance, but more of an understanding.
That's right. It wasn't a binding agreement that obligated them to go to war for each other.
Right.
But it did signal their shared interests and concerns, particularly in the face of German assertiveness. This further solidified the two opposing camps in Europe, creating this, very volatile situation where any spark could ignite a wider conflict.
And of course, that spark came with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. This brings us to the July Crisis, the month following the assassination, which our source describes as a ticking time bomb.
The July Crisis is a textbook example of how diplomatic failures and miscalculations can lead to disastrous consequences.
Right.
Following the assassination, Austria-Hungary issued an ultimatum to Serbia, a list of demands that were essentially designed to humiliate and weaken Serbia.
So Serbia, backed by Russia, refused to fully comply with the ultimatum, leading Austria-Hungary to declare war on Serbia on July 28, 1914.
Exactly.
And then the dominoes really start to fall.
They do. Germany, upholding its alliance with Austria-Hungary, pledged its full support.
Right.
Russia, committed to defending Serbia, began mobilizing its troops. This prompted Germany to declare war on Russia and shortly after on France as well.
It's astonishing how quickly events spiraled out of control. It's like this chain reaction where each action triggers an even greater reaction, pulling more and more nations into the conflict. It's a terrifying example of how quickly a seemingly contained situation can just explode.
And then Great Britain entered the war, citing Germany's violation of Belgian neutrality. This was a key turning point as it brought the full weight of the British Empire into the conflict.
Now, put yourself in Britain's shoes.
Yeah.
They weren't obligated to join the war initially,
Right.
but this invasion of Belgium, it was a blatant disregard for international law.
Belgium, a small nation sandwiched between France and Germany, had been declared permanently neutral in the 1839 Treaty of London.
Right.
This meant that no nation was supposed to attack or invade Belgium. However, Germany, in its rush to attack France, decided to ignore this treaty and marched its troops through Belgium.
So Germany's decision to violate Belgian neutrality was the final straw for Great Britain.
It was. It provided the justification Great Britain needed to declare war on Germany. While Great Britain was already aligned with France and Russia, the violation of Belgian neutrality was a clear breach of international law and a direct threat to British interests.
Yeah.
It was seen as a move that completely destabilized the balance of power in Europe.
So, in just a matter of weeks, a regional conflict in the Balkans had exploded into a full-blown European war. But it didn't stop there, did it? It eventually engulfed nations across the globe.
You're absolutely right. This conflict, initially sparked by a regional dispute, rapidly escalated into a global war, drawing in nations from every corner of the world.
It's just mind-boggling how quickly this conflict went global.
It really is.
It's like watching a wildfire spread, jumping from continent to continent.
Yeah, the consequences of this war were felt far beyond Europe.
Right.
Japan, allied with Great Britain, joined the war on the side of the Allies in August 1914. The Ottoman Empire, seeing an opportunity to regain lost territory, joined the Central Powers in November of that same year.
So we're not just talking about a European war anymore.
No.
It's like a worldwide conflict, redrawing the map and reshaping the geopolitical landscape.
Right.
And just when you think the alliances are set, they shift again.
Right, exactly. In 1915, Italy, initially part of the Triple Alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary, decided to switch sides and join the Allies.
Wow.
This was a major blow to the Central Powers. Italy's strategic location in the Mediterranean Sea posed a significant threat.
It almost seems like Italy was hedging their bets, waiting to see who was going to come out on top.
Yeah. Yeah, their decision was likely influenced by a number of factors, including territorial ambitions and a belief that the Allies had a better chance of winning. Regardless of their motivations, Italy's entry into the war on the side of the Allies expanded the conflict even further.
And of course, we can't forget about the United States. They eventually joined the war in 1917 on the side of the Allies.
Yeah.
What was the tipping point for them?
Well, the United States tried to remain neutral at first, but several events pushed them toward intervention.
Okay.
One factor was Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare,
Right.
which resulted in the sinking of American merchant ships.
Wow.
This included the infamous sinking of the Lusitania in 1915.
The Lusitania, a British ocean liner, carrying American passengers.
Right.
It was sunk by a German U-boat
Yeah.
that caused outrage in the United States.
Yeah.
And it's often cited as one of the key events that turned American public opinion against Germany.
It was.
It's hard to imagine the impact of such a tragedy,
Yeah.
on the public's perception of the war.
Yeah, the sinking of the Lusitania, along with other attacks on American shipping, fueled, this anti-German sentiment.
Right.
Another event that played a crucial role in swaying American opinion towards war was the interception of the Zimmermann telegram in early 1917.
The Zimmermann telegram. That's
Yeah.
a secret diplomatic communication from Germany to Mexico,
Yeah.
proposing a military alliance.
Yeah.
Germany promised to help Mexico reclaim lost territories in the United States if Mexico would join the war on the side of the Central Powers. Imagine the shockwaves that went through the U.S. government, like when they discovered this.
It must have been, a huge shock.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the telegram, intercepted and decoded by British intelligence, was a major propaganda victory for the Allies. It confirmed German hostility towards the United States.
Right.
And fueled fears of a German invasion of North America.
So a combination of factors.
Right.
Including German aggression at sea,
Yeah.
the Zimmermann telegram, and growing economic ties with the Allies ultimately led the United States to declare war on Germany in April 1917.
It did.
Yeah.
The entry of the United States into the war marked a turning point in the conflict.
Okay.
The United States, with its vast industrial capacity of fresh troops, provided this, much-needed boost to the Allied war effort. It tipped the balance of power, decisively in favor of the Allies.
It's unbelievable to think how a seemingly isolated event,
Right.
like the assassination of an archduke in a far-off corner of Europe, could set off such a cataclysmic chain of events. It really highlights the interconnectedness of the world and the fragility of peace.
Indeed. And it raises an important question. Who was ultimately responsible for this devastating conflict? The Treaty of Versailles, the peace treaty that officially ended the war in 1919, placed most of the blame on Germany.
So Germany was forced to accept responsibility for the war, pay heavy reparations, and cede territory.
Right.
It was a harsh treaty that many historians believe contributed to the rise of extremism and resentment in Germany, ultimately setting the stage for World War II. It makes you wonder if the treaty, while aiming for peace, might have inadvertently sown the seeds for future conflict.
Yeah, however, the true causes of World War I are far more complex and nuanced than, simply blaming a single nation.
Yeah.
Historians continue to debate the relative contributions of various factors, including the complex web of alliances,
Right.
the rise of nationalism, imperial ambitions, and diplomatic failures.
It seems like every nation involved played a role in this tragedy,
Right.
whether through miscalculation, ambition, or fear.
Yeah.
The war was a collective failure of diplomacy and a testament to the destructive power of, unchecked nationalism and militarism.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a sobering thought that a war of this magnitude could stem from a multitude of factors, not just a single nation's actions.
Yeah.
It really underscores the need to understand history's complexities.
What's fascinating is that even over a century later, World War I continues to be a subject of, intense debate and analysis. Historians are still piecing together the intricate web of factors that led to the war and trying to grasp its lasting impact on the world.
Yeah, it reminds us that history isn't just about, dates and battles.
Right.
It's about understanding the human decisions and motivations and consequences that have shaped our world and how those echoes of the past still resonate with us today.
Exactly. We see reflections of those times in contemporary conflicts.
Right. In the rise of nationalism and populism, and in the challenges of maintaining peace in an increasingly interconnected world, it's like we're still grappling with the ripple effects of those events.
Yeah. Knowing how quickly a regional conflict can spiral out of control, how do we approach international relations and diplomacy today to prevent such devastating events from happening again? What lessons can we take from World War I and apply to, our modern world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's no easy answer. But I think a crucial takeaway from World War I is the importance of open communication,
Right.
diplomacy,
Yeah.
and a commitment to international cooperation.
Right.
We need to build strong institutions and frameworks that promote dialogue and peaceful resolution of disputes. Think of it like building bridges instead of walls.
It sounds like breaking the cycle of violence and retribution requires a conscious effort to to learn from the mistakes of the past and build a more collaborative future.
Absolutely. We need to recognize the interconnectedness of our world and understand that the actions of one nation can have profound consequences for others. It's about fostering a sense of shared responsibility
Yeah.
for global security and stability.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where nations work together to address challenges
Right.
rather than resorting to conflict.
It's a daunting task,
It is.
but it's essential for our collective future.
Yeah.
World War I stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict,
Yeah.
a lesson we can't afford to forget.
Well said. I encourage you, the listener, to delve deeper into this, pivotal moment in history. There are countless books, documentaries, and resources available to further your understanding of World War I and its, enduring legacy. It's a journey of discovery that can offer valuable insights into our world today.
This deep dive has certainly been eye-opening. It's amazing how much we can learn from examining the past,
Yeah.
even if it's, a painful past, by understanding the causes and consequences of events like World War I. We can hopefully make, more informed decisions and work towards a more peaceful future.